The power of patience in a chaotic world. What if the reason you feel overwhelmed, anxious, and constantly behind isn't because life is too hard, but because you've been taught to move too fast? Take a moment and really think about that. We live in a world where everything is instant. Instant messages, instant results, instant gratification. You tap a screen, and within seconds, you're entertained, validated, or distracted. Speed has become the standard. And if you're not moving fast enough, it feels like you're falling behind. But here's the uncomfortable truth. While the world has become faster, our minds have become more restless, and our hearts more exhausted. Every day, without even realizing it, you're being pulled in 1,000 directions. Notifications buzz, deadlines loom, as social media constantly reminds you of what others are achieving, where they are traveling, how quickly they seem to be succeeding, and slowly, almost invisibly, a pressure builds inside you, a pressure to keep up, to do more, to be more, to get there faster. And when things don't happen as quickly as you expect, frustration creeps in. Doubt follows. You start questioning your path, your timing, even your worth. Why am I not there yet? What am I doing wrong? Why does it seem so easy for everyone else? But what if the problem isn't that you're too slow? What if the problem is that you've been running in the wrong direction all along? There's something powerful, something deeply transformative that most people overlook in this chaotic, fast-moving world. It's not another productivity hack. It's not a shortcut to success. In fact, it's the opposite of everything you've been taught to chase. It's patience, and not the kind of patience that means sitting around and doing nothing. Not the passive waiting that feels like wasting time, but a deeper, stronger, quieter kind of patience. The kind that grounds you when everything around you feels unstable. The kind that gives you clarity when your mind is clouded with noise. The kind that allows you to move forward without losing yourself in the process. Before we go deeper, if you're someone who's searching for more peace, more clarity, and a deeper understanding of life beyond the chaos, consider subscribing to Buddha Flash. This channel is dedicated to sharing timeless wisdom that helps you slow down, reconnect, and live with intention in a world that constantly pushes you to rush. Now, let's come back to this idea of chaos. Look around. The modern world thrives on urgency. Everything is framed as important. Everything feels like it needs your attention right now. And because of that, your nervous system rarely gets a chance to rest. You're always anticipating the next thing, the next message, the next opportunity, the next problem, And in that constant state of anticipation, something subtle but significant happens. You lose your ability to simply be. You lose your ability to sit with discomfort. You lose your ability to wait without anxiety. Think about the last time you had to wait for something. An important email, a response from someone you care about, or even a personal goal you've been working toward. How did it feel? Were you calm and at peace? Or were you restless, checking your phone over and over again, replaying scenarios in your mind, imagining outcomes you couldn't control? For most people, waiting has become unbearable. Not because waiting itself is painful, but because we've forgotten how to do it. We've been conditioned to expect immediate results. And when reality doesn't match that expectation, we experience tension. That tension turns into stress. And over time, that stress becomes a constant background noise in our lives. But here's something worth considering. Life has always moved at its own pace. Seeds don't grow overnight. Healing doesn't happen instantly. Meaningful success doesn't appear in a moment. Yet somehow, we've convinced ourselves that we should be the exception. We rush the process. We force outcomes. We compare our timeline to others. And in doing so, we create unnecessary suffering for ourselves. Because deep down, there's a part of us that knows the truth. A part of us that knows that real growth takes time. A part of us that longs to slow down, but feels afraid to. Afraid that if we stop pushing, we'll fall behind. Afraid that if we're patient, we'll miss out. Afraid that if we don't keep up, we won't be enough. So instead, we keep running. Even when we're tired. Even when we're lost. Even when we don't even know where we're going anymore. And this is the hidden cost of living in a chaotic world without patience. You may achieve things faster. You may check more boxes. You may even appear successful from the outside. But inside, there's restlessness. There's pressure. There's a quiet sense that something is missing. And that something is presence. Because patience is not just about waiting. It's about how you exist while you're waiting. It's about whether your mind is at war with reality or at peace with it. Most people misunderstand patience. They think it means being passive. They think it means tolerating situations without taking action. They associate it with weakness, with hesitation, with lack of ambition. But true patience is none of those things. True patience is strength. It's the ability to stay grounded when everything around you is unstable. It's the discipline to not react impulsively when emotions rise. It's the wisdom to understand that not everything needs to happen right now. Imagine two people facing the same situation. One reacts immediately, driven by fear, frustration, or urgency. They make quick decisions, often without clarity. Sometimes it works out, often it doesn't. The other pauses. They observe. They give themselves space to think, to feel, to understand. And then, when they act, they do so with intention. Who do you think has more control over their life? Who do you think experiences more peace? The difference is not intelligence. It's not luck. It's patience. In a world that rewards speed, patience becomes a quiet rebellion. It becomes a way of protecting your mind from unnecessary chaos. It becomes a way of choosing clarity over confusion, intention over reaction, peace over pressure. And the truth is, the more chaotic the world becomes, the more valuable patience becomes. Because when everything around you is moving too fast, the greatest power you can have is the ability to slow down. So the question is not whether the world will become less chaotic. It won't. And then the real question is, can you remain calm within the chaos? Can you trust the timing of your life, even when it doesn't match your expectations? Can you learn to wait, not with frustration, but with understanding? Because once you begin to develop true patience, something remarkable happens. You stop chasing everything, and you start seeing clearly. In the next part, we'll explore what patience really is beneath the surface, and why it might be one of the most powerful inner strengths you can ever develop. The true power of patience. So what does true patience actually look like? Not the surface level idea of just waiting, but the deeper, quieter force that transforms how you experience life. To understand patience, you have to see beyond time, because patience is not about how long you wait. It's about how you exist in the space between where you are and where you want to be. Most people think patience means delay. They associate it with slowness, inactivity, or even missed opportunities. But real patience is something entirely different. It's a state of inner stability, a kind of calm awareness that allows you to move through uncertainty without losing your center. It's the ability to remain grounded, even when nothing around you feels certain. Imagine standing in the middle of a storm. The wind is loud. The rain is relentless. Everything around you is moving, shifting, unpredictable. Most people in that situation panic. They react. They try to control what cannot be controlled. But the patient person, they don't deny the storm. They don't try to stop it. they simply stand, steady, aware, and unshaken from within. That is patience. It's not passive. It's powerful. At its core, patience is emotional mastery. It's the ability to feel frustration without being controlled by it, to experience uncertainty without collapsing into anxiety, to face delay without turning it into self-doubt. And in a world where people are constantly reacting, scrolling, comparing, rushing, chasing, this kind of inner control becomes incredibly rare, but also incredibly valuable. Because your life is not shaped only by what happens to you. It's shaped by how you respond to what happens. And most of the time, the difference between a wise decision and a regretful one is a pause. Think about how many mistakes come from reacting too quickly, saying something in anger, making a decision out of fear, walking away too soon, or holding on too tightly. These moments don't come from a lack of intelligence. They come from a lack of space, a lack of patience. There's a powerful idea worth remembering. Your power lies in your pause, in that small space between stimulus and response is where your freedom lives. And patience is what protects that space. When you develop patience, you stop being a slave to your impulses. You stop reacting automatically. You begin to choose. And that shift from reaction to choice changes everything. It changes your relationships, because instead of reacting emotionally, you listen more deeply. You understand more clearly. You respond with intention instead of impulse. It changes your goals, because instead of rushing toward quick results, you focus on steady, meaningful progress. You stop abandoning things just because they take time. And most importantly, it changes your inner world, because patience creates peace. Think about it. So much of your stress comes from resisting reality. You want things to happen faster. You want situations to be different. You want certainty where there is none. And that resistance creates tension. But patience dissolves that tension, not by changing the situation, but by changing your relationship to it. When you're patient, you stop fighting time. You stop trying to force outcomes. You begin to trust that things will unfold when the conditions are right. This doesn't mean you stop taking action. It means your actions are no longer driven by panic. They're guided by clarity. There's a quiet confidence in patient people, a sense that they don't need to rush, because they understand that what is meant to grow will grow if given the right attention, the right effort, and the right time. And yet, despite its power, patience is something most people struggle with. Why? Because everything in modern life is designed to weaken it. We are constantly exposed to speed, fast content, fast results, fast success stories. You see someone achieve something quickly, and suddenly your own progress feels slow. You start comparing timelines. You begin to question your path. This is where impatience takes root. Not in reality, but in perception. You're not actually behind. You just feel like you are, because you're measuring your life against carefully edited moments of someone else's. Then there's the fear of missing out. The sense that if you slow down, you'll lose opportunities. That if you're patient, someone else will get ahead. That if you don't act now, you'll regret it later. So you rush, even when you're not ready, even when it doesn't feel right. And over time, that constant rushing disconnects you from something important, your own natural rhythm. Because just like nature, your life has its own timing. There are seasons of growth, seasons of rest, seasons of uncertainty. And patience is what allows you to move through each season without forcing it to be something it's not. There's a simple story that illustrates this beautifully. A farmer plants seeds in the ground. Every day, he waters them. He takes care of the soil. He ensures they get sunlight. But after a few days, nothing appears on the surface. Now imagine if that farmer became impatient. Imagine if he dug up the seeds every day, checking to see if they were growing. What would happen? He would destroy the very process he's trying to accelerate. But a wise farmer understands something deeper. Growth is happening, even when it's invisible. And so he waits, not with doubt, but with trust. Not with anxiety, but with consistency. This is how patience works in your own life. Right now, there are things you're working on, things you care about, things you're hoping will grow. But because you can't see immediate results, it's easy to feel discouraged. It's easy to think nothing is happening. But just because you can't see progress doesn't mean progress isn't being made. Some of the most important changes in your life happen beneath the surface, in your habits, in your mindset, in your resilience. And patience is what allows those changes to take root. Without patience, you give up too early. You switch paths too often. You chase quick wins instead of lasting growth. But with patience, you stay. You commit. You allow things to unfold. And over time, what once seemed slow becomes unstoppable. So the real question is not whether patience is important. It's whether you're willing to embrace it. In a world that constantly tells you not to. Because in the end, Patience is not about waiting for your life to begin. It's about learning how to live fully while it's still unfolding. In the next part, we'll explore how you can actually develop patience in your daily life, even when everything around you is pushing you to rush. How to practice patience in daily life. So how do you actually become more patient in a world that never slows down? It's one thing to understand the value of patience. It's another thing to live it, especially when you're surrounded by urgency, pressure, and constant stimulation. Patience is not something you either have or don't have. It's a skill. And like any skill, it can be trained, moment by moment, choice by choice. The truth is, you don't develop patience in big, dramatic situations. You develop it in the small and everyday moments that most people overlook. In the pause before you respond. In the breath you take when you feel overwhelmed. In the decision to wait instead of react. Let's start with one of the simplest yet most powerful practices. Pause before reacting. When something triggers you, an upsetting message, a stressful situation, a moment of frustration, your first instinct is to react immediately. To say something, do something, fix something. But this is where impatience lives. And this is where most mistakes are made. Instead, try this. Pause. Just for a few seconds. Take a breath. Notice what you're feeling. Not to suppress it, but to observe it. That small pause creates space. And in that space, something incredible happens. You regain control. You're no longer acting out of impulse. You're choosing your response. This one practice alone can transform your relationships, your decisions, and your sense of inner peace. Because again, your power lies in your pause. And the second practice is learning to let go of control. This might be one of the hardest things to accept. Not everything is within your control. Not people's opinions, not timing, not outcomes. And yet, so much of your stress comes from trying to control exactly those things. You want certainty. You want guarantees. You want things to go according to your plan. But life doesn't work that way. When you cling too tightly to control, you create resistance. And that resistance turns into frustration when reality doesn't match your expectations. Patience, on the other hand, is rooted in trust. Trust in the process. Trust in timing. Trust that not everything needs to be forced. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means doing your part and allowing the rest to unfold. There's a quiet freedom in that, because when you stop trying to control everything, you stop exhausting yourself. You begin to move with life instead of against it. The third practice is bringing your attention back to the present moment. Impatience often comes from being mentally stuck in the future. You're constantly thinking about what's next, what's missing, what hasn't happened yet. And because of that, the present moment starts to feel like a waiting room, a place you have to endure until something better comes along. But the truth is, the present moment is not a waiting room. It's your life, right here, right now. When you learn to be fully present, even in ordinary moments, you begin to experience a different kind of peace. You're no longer rushing through life. You're living it. This doesn't mean you stop having goals. It means you stop postponing your happiness until those goals are achieved. Because patience is not about waiting for a better moment. It's about recognizing that this moment is already enough. The fourth practice is to redefine what success means to you. In a fast-paced world, success is often measured by speed. How quickly you achieve something, how fast you grow, how soon you reach the next level. But speed is not the same as depth, and fast is not always better. Think about the strongest things in life: deep relationships, true confidence, lasting success. None of these are built overnight. They take time. They require consistency, effort, and yes, patience. When you redefine success as something that is built slowly and intentionally, you remove the pressure to rush. You allow yourself to grow at your own pace, and that changes everything. Because instead of feeling behind, you start feeling aligned. Instead of chasing, you start building. There's a powerful phrase often used in high-performance environments. Slow is smooth. Smooth is fast. At first, it sounds contradictory, but when you really understand it, it makes perfect sense. When you slow down, you make fewer mistakes. When you move with clarity, you waste less energy. And over time, that steady, intentional approach actually gets you further than rushing ever could. Patience is not slowing you down, and it's keeping you from falling apart. Now, let's bring everything together. In a chaotic world, patience becomes your anchor. When everything feels urgent, patience reminds you to breathe. When everything feels uncertain, patience reminds you to trust. When everything feels overwhelming, patience brings you back to the present. It doesn't remove challenges from your life, but it changes how you experience them. Instead of panic, you feel presence. Instead of pressure, you feel clarity. Instead of constant striving, you feel a sense of quiet progress. And over time, this creates something that many people spend their entire lives searching for: inner peace. Not because your life is perfect, but because your relationship with life has changed. You're no longer fighting every moment. You're no longer chasing every outcome. You're simply living. And that is where true freedom begins. So the next time you feel the urge to rush, to force, to react, pause and breathe. And remember, you don't need to move faster. You need to move with awareness. Because in the end, patience is not just a skill. It's a way of reclaiming your life in a world that constantly tries to take it from you. If this message resonated with you, take a moment to support the channel by liking this video, sharing it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribing to Buddha Flash for more insights on living with clarity, peace, and purpose. And before you go, here's a question for you. What is one situation in your life right now where you need more patience? And what would change if you approached it with calm instead of urgency? Take a moment to reflect and share your thoughts in the comments below.